Welcome back to the I Jupiter podcast. I'm your host, Tom Franklin, and today we have on one of Jim Powell's moderators from the Night's Watch, Jim Powell, the wonderful Jim Powell. We have on a good friend of his, a good person. I don't know his real name, actually. I just know his screen name, but he goes by Ash's Antics. I asked him if he'd like to come on the show. He said, yes, I'd love to talk to you, and we have him on, so let's go ahead and get into that. But before you do that, a little reminder, like and subscribe to the channel, share, comment, hit that notification bell, and all that way you get all your favorite episodes, and you get to keep up with everything that's happening over here at the Eye of Jupiter. I have some new t-shirts. Go and check them out. They're down in the bottom there. Just go ahead and look down in the bottom there in the description, and you will find all the links to my social medias as well as my merchandise. And if you want to reach out to me, you have a story you'd like to tell me, please do me a favor and do that at the Eye of Jupiter podcast at gmail.com. So with all that out of the way, let's welcome to the Eye of Jupiter, Ashes.
Hey, Tom, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't even know. Do you even have a real name? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I got a real name, but I go by Ashes.
Fair enough.
Everybody call me Ashes. I mean, not that I'm hiding anything. I usually tell people, but I just go by Ashes.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, so I reached out to you, and you were so kind to say, yeah, I'd definitely like to come on and talk to you about some of my experiences. So do me a favor, man. Introduce yourself a little bit. Tell me a little bit about yourself and where my listeners can find you.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube, and my main channel, I call it my main channel, I guess, because I got the most subscribers, but it's Ash's Antics. This is my shirt, one of my shirts here. My buddy made this for me, but it's a gaming channel, and I just like to game and laugh, and I do live streams and drop shorts. But about a year ago, I started my podcast channel, and it's there at the bottom. And that's how you find it. You got to type in at the Boom Boom Room 777. But I mostly, have encounters on there. I have people with Bigfoot encounters, supernatural encounters, and also interview different content creators. And I tell like folklore stories each week. Each Sunday, I drop a premiere, and I'm going through state by state, alphabetical order. But I've been really, really enjoying, doing both channels. It keeps me busy, but I am retired. So,
oh yeah, well, I mean, that's at least doing something that that you enjoy, and that's always been like the mantra I have over here. Whatever it is that you're doing, if you enjoy doing it, then do that. So that's really cool. We were talking a little bit backstage. You're a mod over at Jim Powell's The Night Watch. You've been on Daniel Hamilton's Cryptid channel there, and So where does this begin for you? Where would you like to start?
Well, I guess I could start from when I was a kid. And with this encounter here, I've thought all my life, I guess we're free to talk about anything on here, aren't we?
Yeah, there's certain keywords that YouTube doesn't like, but other than that,
yes. Well, yeah, I know that drill. But, when I was a kid, I think I was about 7 or 8. And I didn't tell you before to start, I'm Romani. I'm English Romani. And what that is, if some people don't know, your listeners, that is what English gypsy.
Right, so, right, exactly. Which is Tyson Fury, is that?
Yeah, he is Irish, and and I had a cousin sell his aunt some real estate in Florida, but
no kidding.
And I talked to him a few times, but I don't know him, but yeah, he's kind of put the gypsies on the map there for a while, and a lot of people don't know that there's a lot of famous gypsies too. Charlie Chaplin was one, and my niece through her dad is actually kin to Charlie Chaplin. She done one of those DNA things, and she
the 23andMe or whatever,
yeah. But anyway, it was tough growing up in a small town in Oklahoma, being that, because there was a lot of prejudice,
right.
Believe it or not, and there still is. But I talk about it a little bit, but sometimes, I shy away. I'm proud of who I am because God made me that way.
There you go, buddy.
But growing up in the, culture, it was a little different. But the reason why I'm saying all this is my grandma, she used to tell fortunes. Now, was she? I never really talked in depth with her, but she died when she was 102 years old
Wow.
In 2012, and she had 100 total grandchildren. Like great grandchildren. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
a big family. But anyway, long story short, not a long story short, a long story is yeah. But I grew up in Oklahoma, and the county I grew up in is LaFleur County, which is notorious for encounters, Bigfoot encounters and cryptic encounters, Eastern Oklahoma. And I grew up, which right now I'm only like 10 miles from there. I'm living in Arkansas, and that's right on the line of Oklahoma and Arkansas. But LaFleur County has something called the Spiral Mounds, and we live 3 miles from it, and it's supposed to be, I don't want to butcher anything, it's supposed to be over 2,000 years old, Cato Native American burial grounds, and a
Okay.
lot of mysterious things happened when they dug it up and moved the artifacts from there to Oklahoma City. A lot of mysterious people died, and stuff. But anyway, um I've had a lot of family and friends had a lot of paranormal and cryptic things happen around that. Just I've always heard, even the old timers, they would say this land's cursed and all that. I wouldn't pay attention to them when I was a kid, or a teenager. But what I was going to tell you is my uncle, he was a preacher. He was like a Sunday school preacher, real, close to God, religious, whatever you want to call it. And I grew up in a Christian home, but my grandma, she quit telling fortunes in the 60s because she got saved and she thought it was wrong, and
Okay. Okay.
a very devout Christian woman and close to God. My mom was real spiritual, and my mom said she would see things here and there. She told me one time that she come to my brother's room, and he was out that night partying, and she looked above his bed and seen three like monkey demonic demons, hovering over his bed. She told me a few things like that. And my uncle, I don't know if this ties into my first thing that I can remember as far back, but I was always scared of the dark until I got older, you know,
Okay.
scared to death. So I slept on the floor beside my mom and dad's bed. And my dad, he had MS, multiple sclerosis, and he
Hmm.
died in 2000, real young, 56. But he was in the Navy. He was a veteran. He was an air traffic controlman in the Navy. And then, my mom took care of me and my three brothers and my sister. But anyway, I'd sleep, on the floor because I'd be scared. But I remember that my uncle was telling my mom he would always come down and drink coffee, sometimes have prayer meetings or whatever you want to call them, and talk about the Lord or just talk about whatever anything. And us kids would be in the background kind of listening, but would be in the same room. And I remember he was saying that he had this little creature come to him. He woke him up. It was a real small creature. He never really described it, but he kept saying, I laughed about it, really, and I laughed about it when I got older. But he said it was it was calling him mama, and I thought it, which I like to laugh anyway about a lot of stuff, but I mean, I believe you got to be funny, and laugh things off. But
Sure. Sure.
I would just remember him telling me that. But anyway, I was getting into my deal about 7 or 8 years old. The whole point of that is my mom and my uncle always would have supernatural stuff, happen to them. And when I was 7 or 8 years old, now my whole life, I always thought this was demonic. Now, I'm not saying it isn't demonic. It's just in the last year, since I've really been going down the rabbit hole with cryptics and everything, I think that this might have been what they call a little person, because they have a lot of encounters in Eastern Oklahoma with little people,
Okay. Like
But,
an elemental or something.
yeah, something small,
Right.
creature. I would sleep on my stomach. And, I've this, I think about this ever since it's happened. You know, I'm 48 years old. I've never stopped thinking about this. And which I'm not afraid, you know. And I'm real close to the Lord, you know, and I know that, you know, there's power in Jesus Christ, you know, blood of Christ. So I got control over everything through him. But I remember that I was sleeping on my stomach and something jumped on my back, physically jumped on my back. It started shaking me, you
In the
know.
bed.
It no on the floor in my
Oh, that's right, because you were
makeshift
telling me.
bed.
Oh,
Yeah,
right. Okay.
and it physically shook me. So you know, I don't know if I had paralyzation, sleep paralyzation, or not,
Ah, sleep paralysis.
because
Yes.
I've had it before.
Me
You know
too.
what I mean?
Yes, I
And
do.
several times. So anyway, I try to wake my mom up. She won't wake up. She said, "Just go back to sleep. It's a bad dream." It was not a dream, you know. But I do remember this because where we lived, it was like right off a highway, little 2-lane highway, and it was like a half circle, a gravel road that went to another highway that went to into the Arkansas River, which was 3 miles away, where the Native American burial grounds were. But that half circle were lots and mobile homes on it, and every one of these, my family owned them. So this was all our own land, you know. And
Okay.
but the point of this is when it goes into my other encounter is I remember waking up and I had to pee later that night or something. I remember I walked in the bathroom and it had a little small window, you know, in this mobile home. And I looked through there and my grandma, the one that was, you know, died real old, she had a little RV there, like a 32-foot RV she'd live in. And there was a little path between that and there was a storm cellar, you know, in Oklahoma. They have a lot of storm shelters.
Right, because of the tornadoes and stuff. Right.
Yeah, my dad made that. And I remember I seen this creature walking the path. You know, it was the same night. And all I can remember is it was furry from like waist down, you know,
That's
that
weird.
yeah, yeah,
How tall was this if you had to describe it?
about 2 foot tall, small, real small.
Okay. What did it
Yeah.
look like? What was the
I
facial
did,
features, I
did
guess?
could not see its face. You know, I've
Uh-huh.
told this before and I've tried to, because I know what encounters, you try to put them out of your mind, and then later on, like me, if you start going down that rabbit hole, you start, you know, think back, and you know, and you don't want to make nothing up, this
Right.
BS, you know.
Right. I got you, man.
But because you know, I'm not out here to like some people to get no fame or none of that BS. You know, I just want to tell my story, you know, and because for years I've not told a lot of people. In the last year, I have, you know, because a
Good.
lot of people think you're nuts. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh, yeah.
Even spirit-filled Christians or people that's had certain things happen, they still think you're crazy. Which I got to the point in my life, I don't care what people think. You know, I'm going to be me. You know, but all I can remember is fur, just brown fur. Now, was it a demonic imp? Was it a little person wearing something? I don't know. I mean, he had to get in there some way. If he got in there, it had to be supernatural for in the first place.
How old were you when this happened?
7 or 8.
Okay, yeah. So that's yeah, that happened. I had my poltergeist encounter when I was 8,
Yeah.
and it was over a few day period. So I always have a hard time putting the things in order. So I understand. I try not to make anything up either. It's difficult. It's
Yeah.
difficult to remember back. What is it?
Yeah.
30 something years. You know, it's hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. And, you know, that's about it with that. But and another thing that happened to me, I was kind of starting order of my, you know, my property. When I was 14, my first cousin's grandma, she wasn't my grandma because it was his mom's grandma. She passed away right in front of me. I was
Oh
coming
wow,
from, you know, my friend's house and she fell over and had a heart attack. You know, she was
wow,
dead instantly.
that's
That kind
traumatic,
of
dude.
shook me up.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was, I never forgot it. There was blood on the cement for so long, you know.
wow, because she fell down.
And she
Wow,
grabbed the fence. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to get graphic or nothing, but she was dead. I mean, as soon as she hit the ground, you know,
wow.
We had neighbors run over and try to put nitroglycerin on her tongue. She had a massive heart attack. But anyway, probably that happened when I was 14, probably about 13, 14 years ago. If anybody knows about Oklahoma or Arkansas, when it gets hot in August, it's freaking hot, even at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. You're
Okay.
sweating like a dog. Well, we was walking from my mom's place to his place. Now, his place was a mobile home, and probably about 4 mobile homes down from my mom's place, which the little person, whatever you want to call it, thing happened.
Hmm.
Well, his place was right beside his grandma's that passed away. Now, does this have to do anything with his grandma? I don't know. But anyway, we're walking. It's about, I say about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and it's burning up August heat. Well, we're walking, and all of a sudden, it gets so freaking cold that I start blowing smoke. Well,
Wow.
he looks over at me, and I look over at him. We're both blowing smoke. And he says, "Dude, what's going on?" I said, "Dude, do you feel that? I mean, it's so cold, cold to the bone, cold. I've never been cold." And I started walking a couple more steps. The whole thing probably had 3 seconds, enough to look at each other and say that.
Right, right,
And
right.
then it went away. And, I thought that was
That is
pretty.
really weird.
Yeah.
Because people don't understand, like when you're in like I'm down here on the Yucatan Peninsula, dude. So
Yeah.
it's hot here now. It's when it's 85 degrees as a high, that's a cool day. That's like a winter day here.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
when it's in the evening and it's hot, I mean the shirt is sticking to you, you can bring it out, and you're not
Mhm.
doing anything but thinking. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden to be able to see your breath in the air, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was pretty crazy, man.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely.
But I can get into some paranormal stuff. But while we're talking about that land, like I said, it's like a half circle, and then you go to the highway. Well, you go on up probably a block, and there's a bunch of other mobile homes.
Okay.
And what most people called it, because there was a bunch of families that lived there, was they call it the gypsy camp. Because there's a lot
Okay.
of us lived there. I mean, it's what everybody else called it. But I had he was my brother-in-law for a while, but he had a brother. I know his brother would mess with a lot of black magic and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
When we was
Okay.
kids, we play with the Ouija board and the pendulum.
No. Bad news.
Yeah. I already know that. But we was kids. But anyway, he told me this for years, but I haven't seen him in years. But when we was kids, he told me that one night he was asleep, and I remember his mobile home was up higher. I guess they do that to level it out. It was pretty high because I remember I'd come up to the window and my head would be, like about right there, and I was probably 5'10" or 11 at the time. And he said that one night, I'm sorry, he smelled something was rank.
Okay.
And I remember in his bedroom, even if you're sitting in the bed, you can look his door and then you can see the window down the hall, He said he stood up and looked, and he said the whole window was filled with something black and hairy. He had 2 red eyes looking through the window.
Okay.
And he swore it was Bigfoot. And I wouldn't laugh at him. I said, yeah, man, I wouldn't pay attention. I thought he was just lying my whole life until later, until something happened to me. Because my whole life I always thought, I already knew that there's supernatural. I know that there was, there's demons and angels. I know all about that, the paranormal. But Bigfoot, I always thought it was some undiscovered ape. But now I think totally different. I think that they can be flesh and blood when they're flesh and blood, and they can be supernatural when they're supernatural.
So like they can
opinion.
choose. So they can kind of choose on which form they present themselves.
I really that's just my opinion.
No.
People have their own opinions.
Oh, I'm not worried. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to make sure I understand your point of view.
I know. But I was checking my sugar deal. If my sugar goes low, I got to eat something. But anyway, I'm a diabetic type 2. But anyway, what happened to me was 2011. And I'm trying to draw a picture here from my mom's about 4. This was on the straight line road. Like I said, it was a half circle. And I remarried my second wife, and we bought a new mobile home in 2011. And right around the elbow of the curve, that her dad owned some land. We put a mobile home on it. Okay. But once you look in the elbow of the curve, there was my uncles and my dad built a church years ago, but somebody burned it down,
Oh,
and it was
right.
gone, it was just a foundation. And there's some woods, not a real thick, like wide patch of woods, but it was enough that when we were kids, we could walk in the woods and go all the way 3 miles, 2.5, 3 miles to the river in the bottom. So, you could stay hidden in them woods. We were kids, we'd stay in the woods playing, and
Oh, yeah.
all that. So it was 2011. It was about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was smoking at the time, I don't smoke anymore, vape. But I went on the porch and I was smoking on the porch. Well, I remember that the moon, was pretty bright. You could pretty well see a lot. And I started hearing something crashing through the woods. And I'm sitting there smoking and I'm looking. So I'm thinking it's, somebody on a mule, the side by side, or a four wheeler coming through there at first. But I didn't hear a motor. And then it started getting louder. And I tell you what it sounded like. It sounded like a freaking Volkswagen Beetle coming through there without an engine, or a freaking elephant. So I'm looking and I'm start seeing these smaller trees start moving, and it's this thing's crashing. And I'm sitting here, probably the whole thing, maybe 10 seconds, maybe the whole encounter. And I say I'm about anywhere from 50, 60 yards to the woods, and then the opening where that old concrete's there. So I'm sitting there smoking. I'm saying, what is this? It's not making a sound, everything. You know how your mind's saying, what's going on? What is this? Whatever. So anyway, I see it crashing. I'm still thinking it's a mule. I'm still thinking it's a side by side. I'm still thinking it's going to come out. Somebody's going to come out, at the opening. When it got close to the opening, it stopped. And it stopped for about 2 seconds. And I'm saying, man, what's going on? Tom, it roared. And when it roared, it shell shocked me, man.
Yeah.
I felt my whole insides, my guts. I've been to NASCAR races. I used to go to funny car races, even Indy car races.
Funny car, Top Fuel, those kind of things.
Yes.
Right. So
that was,
give people a little bit of reference. Like my father used to go to Reading, Pennsylvania. Yeah. So give these people a reference. You can go ahead and tag on later. This, my father says, when you go there and you watch the races, you don't see the cars. They're about half to 3/4 of the way down the track because your eyes vibrate.
Yeah.
It's so much movement on the ground. He was talking to a gentleman there, and they say, yeah, we live down the holler or down the bottom of the valley about a mile away. And when they have the races, that the knickknacks in the woman's cabinet would rattle. So to give the people a reference, if you've been there, so go ahead, continue. I'm sorry. That was a great way to describe it, man.
That's an excellent way to describe it. That's the only way I could describe it. But my guts, every orifices of my body shook, and it shell shocked me. I remember I just couldn't move, and then, I think I would have reacted different now, if it happened right now, for what I know and kind of knowing. But only thing I remember is I walked in and I started praying, and that was it. I don't remember nothing else. I just woke up the next morning. So it's like a lost time. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
My memory, I cannot remember nothing else.
Oh my God! But did you wake up in the bed or on the
I
floor or
woke up
outside?
into I woke up into a bed. It seemed like I went in there and started praying. I don't know if I grabbed the Bible or what. Which
Hmm.
I knew God, but I'm not as close as I am today. Because I was
Right.
in a messed up marriage and stuff at the time. But um, I had a lot of stuff happen to me. But yeah, I don't. It's like a lost time, and I've tried to remember. I've tried to go back and remember things. I just
You just
can't
don't.
remember. Yeah.
Did you go out? Did you go out the next morning to where you
No,
heard the roar and go look?
no, because I thought it was demonic. I
Okay.
just brushed it off as something demonic because I had a lot of demonic things happening, to me and stuff.
Oh, with
And
the grabbing on the floor and the coldness in the air, and that's quite,
yeah, I mean these are different times though. All these are different times.
Right, right,
But
right, right.
but that happened in 2011 because during that time when I was married to my second wife, my ex-wife, I seen this creature and coming through my door one night. And what it was a lot of stuff going on in the marriage.
Okay.
But I seen this creature stick its head through my door. It was dark one night. I was in bed. I woke up and I don't know if I had a vision of this thing or if it was, I believe in spirit it was there or what. But, and what's funny about this, and this thing had big giant teeth, red eyes, it wasn't a Sasquatch at all. It had a big head, real hairy head. It had big hands, but it was real skinny through here, and it had no hair or anything on its arms. I remember that about it. And
What
it's
color was
like
the skin or whatever?
I like gray. This
Okay.
was a demon because let me tell you, and it would kind of look through the door. That's all I seen. And for about a split second. Well, anyway, uh, so people that don't, know when you pray to God, the Lord will sometimes talk to you subconsciously. I guess that's the only way I can put it without sounding crazy. If anybody's, that prays a lot or anything.
Hmm.
But at the time, it's like the Lord told me that was a dope demon. He told me that was a dope demon
Oh
that was
wow.
trying to get in my house. And here's what's weird. I won't mention the preacher. There's a preacher from Tennessee. And I was watching him like 2 years later, and he was telling a story. Some people like him, some don't. But he was a very famous preacher. He's
Mm.
telling the story that he goes to this guy's house, and this guy was an ex-pastor, and the guy had a drug demon in him. And he said the demon spoke to him and said, "I'm going to get you next." So he goes home, he sees the demon in his house coming at him, and he described it to a T, exact down to a T what I saw.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was just total confirmation right there. Total
No kidding, dude.
confirmation. Yeah,
No
no,
kidding. That
no,
is
no
that is
crap.
incredible.
Yeah,
Oh,
that blew my mind. But the Lord's always showed me things, like through dreams. I've had dreams of people, and they've come true, and
oh yeah.
even tragedy.
Yeah.
I've Lord showed me stuff. But yeah, that's kind of what happened on the land there, and I'll tell you what happened to me. I lived in this house for about 6 years. This was 4 years ago that me and my ex-girlfriend, when I met her, she had an old house, when we were together 6 years. And long story short, we ended up selling it and buying some land, but we ended up broke up and I moved out or whatever. But anyway, when we was living in this old house, and it had to be built in the 1920s, just an old house, in town. And there was a lot of paranormal things happen. Well,
Okay.
I'll tell you some of them. Well, her twin nephews came living with us. They were 14. Another nephew, 15, and her niece. And what happened is their stepdad wasn't treating them right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
And
got you.
so we raised them for about 6 years.
There you go, man. That's good. That's a good
And
thing, brother. That's a good
yeah,
thing.
I wouldn't let nothing happen to no kids,
That's
man. You
right, dude.
know, no
That's right.
way. And it was tough and tight sometimes, but anyway, one of the twins. Well, let me tell you this first. Her niece was in the side bedroom, and she ran in one day. Well, ran, out in the living room. Was in the living room watching TV. She said, "Why'd you throw that lighter at me, Aunt?" She said, "I wasn't throwing no lighter at you." She said, "That was you. It looked just like you." We just thought it was a joke. Passed it off. Well, about a week later, her nephew, one of the twins, was telling us, and very sane kid, nothing mental wrong with him at all. He was telling us, he said, "There's a woman talking in my ear telling me to do bad things."
Whoa.
Yeah, I said, "What?" Yeah, I said, "What do you mean, man?" And well, she's telling me to do bad things, and she looks like my aunt here.
Whoa. That's what they.
Yeah,
Oh, that is a trickster, bro. That is a
yeah,
trickster, like demon trickster thing, where they
yep,
look like somebody. That way, the kids are not too alarmed, but then they
yeah.
get them to do something against their will, or the will of God, better said. Wow.
Really, I've never
Right.
heard that a trickster. Yeah,
Yeah, they
but
like to do things like that. They like to do things like that where they'll throw things, or they'll they'll take your keys and then put it in another
uh-huh,
place, and you'll look
uh-huh.
for them, you can't find them, and then you'll look back later and they'll be there. Things like that.
Wow.
Or they'll take different forms and things like that. Like a
Yeah,
trickster entity, that's what they call them.
really.
Yeah.
Well, I know that we were sitting in there one night and the toilet lid slammed. And you could say, well, they slam sometimes, but it done it
No.
2 times. It done it 2 times. Yeah, and there was a lot of stuff happened, but he went working with his dad and cousins, and I felt something evil because I always would pray, and I pray in my house, and I pray every day, the Lord, but I was praying one day, and no, this is when he was here.
Okay.
Or no, this was after. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. I
That's
felt
okay.
something felt something evil. So I was in the bedroom, and this was used to be a garage of this old house, but it was in a bedroom now, and it had a little bathroom. And the only thing we had separating it was just like a thin curtain, because nobody had come down there, just a small bathroom. And I was taking a leak, and I felt something evil,
Mm-hmm.
and I say a corner of my eye, I seen it, and it looked just like her. Looked like my girlfriend at the time, but more like the Grudge. It was real
Oh,
pale, had her same hair, and it had its head down. And I said, "What do you want?" And I'm waiting on Michael. That was her nephew, the one that you've been talking to. I'm waiting on Michael. Well, I come out of there and I started praying, I started rebuking in the name of Jesus.
right.
Well, I got down praying and praying, and the Lord told me that I can run it out, but it'll come back because he got to denounce it. And I said, "Oh, okay, I get it now." Well, he come home. I sat him down. I said, "Michael," I said, what have you been doing? What have you been messing with?" And about 30 minutes later, he finally told me it was the Ouija board. He was playing
Oh,
with his little girlfriend, playing the Ouija board. Yep.
there it is. He opened the door to something, man.
He opened that door. And
Yeah.
we had a lot of other things happen one night. Like it was a step up into the kitchen, the bedroom, the same bedroom. And I remember I woke up one night and I looked over, and I was it seemed like I was getting attacked too, because I was getting so closer to God. The Lord was showing me stuff, really speaking to me. He told me, "I'm going to take you higher spiritually," and he did. He opened my eyes up, and I really studied the Bible. I'm not smart at all, but the smartest thing I ever done was give my life to God, and to
Right, buddy.
serve him.
Great.
I'm not intelligent at all. But I give God all the glory. But I remember I woke up one night and I seen these three shadow figures, and they looked like basically outline of aliens is what they looked like, and they had these bulbs on their fingers, and all they was doing was moving their fingers like that, and he never did speak. It was like three figures together. It was the weirdest thing. I'm telling you, there's some stuff happening in that house, man.
Yeah, I would get the heck out of there, bro. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. Well, we
yeah,
ended up we sold it, and I think what happened with a lot of that is um, a lot of some of the people living in there were very demonic. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Her
doing bad stuff.
relatives
Yeah, man.
doing bad things because there was a lot of stuff. There was one. My nephew came and stayed for a few days, and he got up. My ex said it was him, but it wasn't. Seen a figure look just like him walking around the kitchen. It wasn't him. There was a lot of demonic things that happened in
Yeah,
there.
but they keep wanting to imitate and like appear as somebody that's in the house, but a little bit different.
Yeah, yeah.
That
Well,
is spooky,
this
bro.
is the most kind of a shocking thing. And like I
Okay.
said, if you edit it, you might have to edit it out if it gets too. I won't try to get too graphic or anything.
Do your best, man. Do your best. I know you're
And
professional.
I've never told this on any podcast, because some of them you get on there and they don't want you to talk about certain things, and I respect that,
True. Okay.
Okay, but my ex-girlfriend had a longtime friend about her age, and we had a backyard. We live in town, and it was a wooden fence around it, so she needed a place to live. And she had a little bitty camper, So we let her stay back there and, just, rent, pay a little rent. And I don't know if this has got to do with the place. I think it's got to do more with her. I think she was dealing with a lot of demonic entities, a lot. Because one day I was in there and we was talking about the Lord, and she'd come up, sometimes and visit. It wasn't because the house, when you walk out, it had a little bitty driveway, and then, it was a little side street. But when you walk out, you can walk to the right around the corner, and it was a fence. And then you go in the backyard was her camper.
Okay.
And it wasn't that far of a walk, to go around. But she come up there one day and she goes, my back's been hurting and stuff. I said, why don't you let me pray for you? And I went to pray for her, and her eyes got real big, and she took off, ran out. And because I understand people. Some people have mental problems, and they're not all demonic.
True.
It could be a chemical imbalance,
Mm-hmm.
But people that was around her, even people that weren't spiritual, could tell something was off with her. And like I said, I won't name any names, but one time she come up there and she wouldn't talk for a week or eat, and and just voices would talk to her. But here's what I'm getting up to. I'll take a drink. I'm getting dry.
Yeah, you're doing all the talking, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry if I'm talking too much.
No, man. I don't mean it that way. I mean it in the way you're carrying the load, and I appreciate it. It's the other way.
You're welcome. But I was asleep. I don't know what. It was kind of early, and her nephew come running. Come here. I'll just say her name is Tina. Come here. Something's wrong with Tina. I said, man, what's going on? So I'll get up, just me. Come on, she's in the backyard. There's blood. I said, what are you talking about? So I walk to the door. As soon as I open up the door, there's droplets of blood going all the way. I'm talking about there's like a trail of blood going all the way in the back, backyard. So I'm walking in the back, and there's the camper. And I'm seeing blood all the way to the camper. So she opens the door. So what's going on, Tina? Which ain't her real name. What's going on? She said, I cut myself. Well, I'm, thinking that she cut, but she's bleeding out of her mouth, you know. So I'm thinking that she had ate something and then cut her tongue.
Right.
What happened? I take her to the hospital. Um, what happened is voices told her if she did not take her eyeball out or cut her tongue out, they was gonna off her children.
Okay, that's a good way of putting it. Perfect.
She had, yeah, she had voices was telling her that, and she took. Like I said, you can cut some of this out. I pretty well know what to say or not, but a paring knife
Okay.
and try to cut her
Yeah.
out,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't work. So she took a box cutter, and if we didn't get her,
Shit.
yeah, if we didn't get her to the hospital, she'd have bled out. And I looked in her camper, and it was bad, man. There was a little sink there. It was full of coagulated blood. It was blood
Oh.
all over. And she said the reason why she couldn't get her eye out, it hurt too much. She was trying to take a spoon to take her eye out. Yeah. So she was demonically possessed. And I tried, she went to the hospital and we, tried to get her some help, and stuff. And it's really a sad story
Yeah, man.
because what happened about 3 years after that, she ended up offing herself in the
Oh, man.
river. Yeah, it was
Whoa.
a sad thing. Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah.
That's awful. There's so many
Yeah.
stories like that.
Yeah,
Where,
it was awful.
and however, you can help some, just, people listening or watching this, however
Yes,
you can offer someone, if it's taking them to church, if it's
yes.
taking to see somebody,
A
some type of
professional.
mental professional, because
Yeah,
I've dealt with things too, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've dealt with anxiety and
yeah,
depression,
yeah,
war vets, things have happened. I'm still fighting the VA,
yeah,
trying to get something. So yeah, it's if you see something like that, do your best to try to help. I know, the world's a crazy place and we all have jobs and
yeah,
families and stuff like that, but it could be something like you're saying. If she's hearing voices in her head,
yeah,
who's to know what that is? That could be something, mental, like
yeah,
you were saying, or it could be
yeah,
something external that internalized or
yeah.
external that she's hearing. But that is so. It's
It's
basically
sad.
it's been around you a lot. Have you
Yeah,
ever? And this is all in the same basic community?
yeah, basically not far. I mean, as far as, where I grew up in the house is like 10, 12 miles apart. But the old house, man, there's a lot of stuff. I think that demonic and negative energy, can attach to a property or a place, but
True.
people for sure, man, because, you go around, say, it's just like two opposites, man. Somebody's living for God, and good, and then you got this evil. It just clashes wherever I go,
Okay.
and but I don't know if Bigfoot. I didn't see Bigfoot, but if I had to guess, and a lot of people told me that was probably a Sasquatch
Most
encounter.
likely, yeah.
Yeah, because something roaring like that, that sounded like a lion and an elephant and it's just there's no way because black bears, there's barely any black bears around there, and they're rare, where I live.
Right.
So
Yeah, it seems like it's been your whole life where it's been like just one
uh,
thing after another that has found its way in your inner circle or around you. And I think it's a good thing that you have been getting closer to God.
yeah,
That's a good thing for you, man. And if it helps you and it
yeah.
does good for you in your life and your family and the people around you, man, that's a very powerful thing, man.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was gonna tell you another story too.
Sure.
I've told this one. I've got a friend, and we're down where I grew up in Oklahoma, which is not far from here, and those Native American burial grounds, and it's close by the Arkansas River, and there's it's kind of a old country, some farms and stuff, but there's a black community there. I know everybody there grew up, a lot of people in that community. And there's a lady that she doesn't live far from me. She lives in town. She's 65 years old, and she's a good friend. And I've known her for probably 25 years. And her brother's a pastor, here in town, pretty good sized church. But she doesn't like to drive. When I go out, I'll call her, and we got a good relationship. Hey, you don't want me to take you somewhere and stuff, and, get you some. She dips that old snuff, or take her to get her a big red. Just a friend. And
Right.
But one day we were talking. I think it was on her birthday, about a month or so ago. We never talk cryptics, at all. And we'll talk about God and stuff because it just doesn't come up. It's just we don't talk about it. But one day I was talking about it, and she grew up down by those Native American burial grounds. If this, this could be nothing. The first story I could tell you could be nothing at all. But she said she was 15. It's very short. I just wanted to add it.
Sure.
Since she was 15, her and her cousin was out, wasn't supposed to be out. It was like 12 or 1 in the morning, snuck out. I don't know what, she never told me what she was doing. But she said she was at the end of the road fixing to go home, not far from home, and she heard something growling. She looked back, and she told me, she said, I got to tell you, it was the biggest dog I've ever seen looking wolf, she said. I said, what? And she's just telling me this because we don't even talk about cryptic. I said, what do you mean? I said, was it like a pit bull? She said, no, I'm telling you, it was like a horse. It was like a small horse. And it started growling and had red eyes. And when she told me the red eyes, I said, well, what did you do? She said, we just took off running, And when we got home, we never looked back, and that was it. But she had other things happen to her. She's telling me she'd see ghosts in the house and stuff like this. But this is one of the most freakiest things I've ever heard. I'm fixing to tell you. Said she was 9 years old, and I guess she was being bad, and her mom made her go outside. Now, I don't know if it was cold or hot, but I know she said it was at night,
Okay.
And I'm assuming it wasn't real late. But I guess in the yard, she had one of those big propane tanks. I think I know, those big giant propane
Yeah.
tanks.
Of course I do.
When you was a kid, you get on them and ride them like a horse and stuff.
Yes, of course.
She said she got on there and she was laying back on it, mad. I don't know if she was crying or what, but she heard something and she got up. I know she told me she got up and looked, and I know it's going to sound freaky, but and she thinks she's about 9. She thinks she's about 9 or 10. She's seen 3 scarecrow creatures. And she said, all I can tell you, it looked like the mama, the daddy, and the kid. It did. It was 3 of them. What she might have been, there was just been 3 different sizes. I don't know. And she described them looking like a scarecrow, just down to a T, walking towards her. And I said, well, what did you do? She said, I ran and beat that door until they opened it up, got in, looked back, they were gone. And she described them to had red eyes. And
that is I don't think I've heard that one before. I don't think
I've heard
that one.
I've heard of them in Kentucky. I've heard of scarecrow encounters in Kentucky, but not here.
Well, if you think about it, dude, that has to, the idea of a scarecrow has to come from somewhere. You know what I mean? Someone just doesn't go, okay, I'm going to take a, like an old flannel shirt and stuff it with some hay and put it in the field so the crows will eat my corn. That comes from somewhere. Yeah, dude. There's a lot of it's a good mixed bag of a lot of things, man. You've seen a lot of things.
I've definitely have. And, I've had a lot of friends and family, tell me things that happen. As far as, I think, I've got friends that are paranormal investigators,
Okay.
And, me, myself, I won't touch a Ouija board,
No.
I won't touch nothing because I believe that it's wrong, to try to contact spirits and stuff like that, because we do have power over over them in the name of Jesus, but we're not supposed to open ourselves up to that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And stuff. But you know, I don't know why a lot of stuff has happened. And I thank God that, you know, things have not happened to me in a while, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
as far as like, you know, praying and stuff, the Lord, you know, speak to you, you know, but, you know, you need to pray for this person or something like that, because we all got faults. But
of course.
what gets me with Christianity and the church, you know, they don't want to talk about, you know, Genesis 6, you know, they don't want to talk about the Nephilim and more, and the more spiritual side of things, you know what I mean? Because I believe, you know, this is me personally. I might be wrong. I just don't believe that there's ghosts. I believe there's some kind of demonic things, you know. There's good and bad angels. That's just how I believe.
Yeah, that's
now,
fair, man. That's fair.
Like aliens, maybe there is another race out there God created. I don't know. But I think a lot of these encounters are demonic. You know, you know what I mean? Trying to disguise yourself, but who knows?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you with the whole trickster thing, that they kind of like want to take the form of somebody else so that you feel comfortable. Yeah, but this has been a fantastic interview. I appreciate so much that you came on. One more time, Ashes, could you tell everybody where they can find you?
Well, you can find me if you like gaming and want to laugh. You can find me Ashes Antics on YouTube. I'm also on TikTok, Instagram, and X. But if you want to hear interviews of encounters and folklore stories, you can look me up on YouTube at the Boom Boom Room 777.
Fantastic, man. Stick around for a second, dude. I want to talk to you in the green room, and I appreciate very much that you came on and spoke with me today.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate you having me, brother.
Thank you too, buddy. So remember, guys, we are the eye, we are aware, and I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Later. You have been watching the Eye of Jupiter podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any of your favorite interviews. And remember, we are the Eye, we are aware.